The arrival. Jack adjusted his translator as the shuttle descended through the swirling mists of planet Eliction. The view from the window showcased towering structures that glimmered against the planet's dusky skies, a sight that left many first-time visitors in awe. Beside him, his colleague and fellow linguist, Carl, tapped eagerly on the glass. "Look at that architecture, Jack. It's like nothing we've ever documented before," Carl exclaimed, his eyes wide with excitement. Jack nodded, his mind busy with thoughts of the upcoming tasks. "It's impressive, for sure. I'm more interested in how their verbal language will compare to the visual marvels here." As the shuttle landed, a welcoming committee awaited them. Among the group, a tall figure detached itself and approached. His badge identified him as Theron, their liaison officer. "Welcome to Eliction," Theron said, his voice modulated through the translator with a smooth, melodic quality. "I hope your journey was comfortable." "It was fascinating, thank you," Carl replied, shaking Theron's extended hand. Jack offered a polite nod, his attention caught by the various beings milling around. "We're eager to get started. Language and culture are our areas of expertise, and Eliction presents a unique opportunity." Theron smiled. "Then you'll be pleased to know that your schedule includes sessions with some of our best linguists and cultural ambassadors. But first, let me show you to your accommodations." As they walked through the bustling spaceport, Jack and Carl were introduced to more of the planet's customs and languages by Theron, who explained each detail with an infectious enthusiasm. The diversity was staggering, each interaction a doorway to countless new questions and theories. Their quarters were located in a high tower overlooking a vast plaza. Once settled, Theron left them to refresh themselves before the evening's welcome dinner. "Jack, are you seeing this?" Carl gestured towards the plaza below, where groups of Elictions communicated in a dazzling array of lights and subtle body movements. "There's so much to learn here." Jack leaned on the balcony rail, his analytical mind already at work. "And to think, our job is to document and make sense of it all. It's not just about understanding them, but being able to convey that understanding to others. That's the challenge, isn't it?" Carl replied, pulling out his notebook and starting to jot down initial observations. "We're not just translators. We're bridge builders." The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the plaza as the lights from various beings started to stand out more starkly against the encroaching darkness. "Let's head down," Jack suggested. "Best way to learn is to dive right in, immerse ourselves in their world." Carl grinned, his earlier excitement returning. "After you, Mr. Bridge Builder." Together they made their way to the dinner, ready to meet, mingle, and perhaps most importantly, understand. Tonight would be the first of many nights spent unraveling the complexities of Eliction, a task neither daunting nor unwelcome, but rather a thrilling challenge that lay at the very heart of why they had come so far from home. Chapter 2. The First Encounter. The banquet hall on Eliction was a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds, each table adorned with exotic flora and bioluminescent lights. Jack and Carl, after being guided through the maze of delicacies and customs, finally settled at a table with other delegates. The air was thick with a mix of aromas and the hum of dozens of conversations, each in a variety of languages and formats, some even in silent, vibrant color exchanges. Carl leaned over to Jack, his eyes gleaming with the excitement of the new. "Can you believe the complexity of their non-verbal cues? It's like watching a dance with 1,000 steps." Jack nodded, scanning the room for their host. "It's fascinating. I wonder how they perceive our plain old spoken words." Before Carl could reply, a figure approached their table, a slender Eliction with iridescent skin that shimmered under the hall's lights. "I am Lyra," she introduced herself in smooth tones, the translator barely keeping up with her melodious voice. "I heard you are linguists. I specialize in non-verbal communication among our kind." Jack extended his hand, which Lyra took gently. "Jack, and this is Carl. We're honored to meet you. Your expertise sounds exactly like what we're hoping to learn more about." Lyra's laugh was like chimes. "Then you are at the right table. Tell me, what do you find most challenging about our communication methods?" Carl jumped in with a question. "How do you manage nuances? In verbal speech, tone and context add layers, but with visual signals, isn't there a higher chance of misinterpretation?" Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. "Indeed, nuances are vital. We rely heavily on context and sequence. It's like your poetry, where not just the words but the rhythm and breaks speak volumes." The conversation shifted to deeper explanations as Lyra illustrated her points with subtle gestures that created soft ripples of light around her. Jack was fascinated. "Could you teach us some basic signs? Practical phrases, perhaps?" "Certainly," Lyra agreed, her face lighting up with enthusiasm. She spent the next hour guiding them through various gestures, explaining the cultural significance behind each one. As the dinner drew to a close, Lyra invited them to join her the next day at a cultural seminar. "You will see a broader application of these techniques among different sectors of our society." Jack and Carl accepted eagerly, the prospect of learning directly from an expert too good to pass up. They thanked Lyra for the insights and company, promising to meet her at the seminar. Walking back to their quarters, Carl couldn't stop talking about the evening. "Did you see how Lyra's gestures changed the lighting around her? It's not just communication. It's art." Jack smiled, his mind busy processing everything they had learned. "Tomorrow will be even more interesting. I'm particularly curious about the potential for miscommunication. It's one thing to understand the mechanics, another to grasp the subtleties." Carl nodded. "It's going to be a steep learning curve, but imagine how this could revolutionize our approach to communication studies." The lights of Elixion twinkled in the distance as they strolled through the quiet streets, each lost in thought about the day's revelations and the possibilities tomorrow would bring. Their venture into understanding an alien culture was just beginning, and both were eager to dive deeper into the complex beauty of nonverbal communication on Elixion. Chapter 3. Deepening Connections. The morning sun of Elixion cast a gentle glow over the city as Jack and Carl made their way to the cultural seminar. The streets were bustling with activity, the locals moving about in a fluid, almost choreographed manner that fascinated the human visitors. Upon arriving at the seminar venue, they were greeted warmly by Lyra, who seemed even more enthusiastic than the night before. "Welcome, Jack, Carl. Today, you'll see how we apply our communication methods across different social settings." Jack smiled, his interest piqued. "We're ready to dive in." Yesterday's dinner was just the tip of the iceberg, it seems. Lyra led them into a large auditorium where Elixions from various sectors gathered. Scholars, artists, and government officials mingled, their interactions a complex ballet of light and movement that Jack and Carl observed keenly. "Each group uses a slightly different dialect of visual language," Lyra explained. "Notice the scholars. Their lights are more subdued, often pulsing in rhythm to denote critical thinking or analysis." Carl, scribbling notes, whispered to Jack, "This differentiation could be akin to our professional jargons or registers." They were soon joined by Dr. Marek, an Elixion historian, who shared insights into the evolution of their communication forms. "Over centuries, our people have refined these methods to suit various purposes: education, governance, art. The adaptability is key to understanding our societal structures." Jack engaged Dr. Marek in a deep discussion about historical records and linguistic evolution. "How do you document these changes? In terms of data collection, what challenges do you face?" Dr. Marek gestured to a series of intricate light patterns that appeared around him. "We use these visual archives. Each pattern represents different epochs and major cultural shifts. The challenge, however, is maintaining the purity of information over generations. As the seminar progressed, Jack and Carl participated in several interactive sessions, attempting to use the eliction techniques themselves, which resulted in a few amusing miscommunications, but also a rapidly growing appreciation for the complexity and beauty of nonverbal languages. Later, Lyra took them to a smaller workshop focused on educational applications. Here, teachers and students use an adapted form of our language, optimized for learning environments. Watch. The workshop was vibrant, with younger elictions demonstrating their proficiency. Jack was particularly impressed by the way teachers corrected and guided students through subtle modulations of light and color, a method that seemed to enhance understanding and retention. Carl leaned over to Jack, his eyes alight with fascination. Imagine applying this in human classrooms. The potential for nonverbal cues to support learning. Jack nodded, deep in thought. There's so much we could learn from this. Our own educational systems could benefit greatly from integrating some of these techniques. As the day wound down, Lyra escorted them out of the auditorium. I hope today has been enlightening. There's much more to share, should you wish to continue learning. We'd love to, Jack responded enthusiastically. Your world is incredibly rich, and the depths of your communication forms are something we've only just begun to explore. Lyra smiled. Then let's plan for more. There's a cultural exhibition tomorrow that showcases the artistic applications of our communication. I believe you'll find it most intriguing. As they parted ways, Jack and Carl discussed the day's learnings excitedly, both eager to delve further into the intricate world of Eliction's communicative arts. Their understanding of this alien culture was deepening, and with it, their admiration for the sophisticated ways in which the Elictions connected with one another. Chapter 4. The Language of Touch. The cultural exhibition was held in an expansive gallery near the center of Eliction's capital, a space filled with sculptures that pulsed with light and holographic displays that danced in mid-air. Jack and Carl were early, their anticipation evident as they waited for Lyra at the entrance. Lyra arrived, her presence marked by a soft glow that seemed to harmonize with the exhibition's ambience. Good morning. I'm glad to see you both so eager. Today, you'll experience the artistic side of our communication. As they entered the gallery, Lyra guided them to a piece that resembled a swirling galaxy. This is one of our most revered art forms. It's called sensory symphony. It communicates through visual stimuli combined with subtle vibrations that you can feel as you get closer. Carl was fascinated. It's like it's speaking directly to our senses. The combination of sight and touch. Brilliant. Yes, Lyra agreed. It's designed to evoke emotions and thoughts through multisensory engagement. Try to move closer and then step back to see how your perception changes. Jack followed her suggestion, moving in and out of the sensory field. Each position offered a new layer of experience, a new phrase in the silent yet eloquent dialogue of the artwork. It's almost like a conversation, he remarked, each step a different topic or emotion. Encouraged by Jack's insightful observation, Lyra led them to another section where interactive installations allowed visitors to create their own light patterns. Here, you can try your hand at crafting messages using what you've learned about our nonverbal cues. Carl was quick to engage with the installation, his initial attempts creating a chaotic burst of colors. With Lyra's guidance, he learned to modulate the intensity and frequency of the lights, his messages becoming more coherent and thoughtful. Watching Carl's interaction, Jack experimented with the interface, his mind linking the visual codes to linguistic structures. There's a rhythm to it, almost like composing music. Each element has to harmonize with the others to make sense. Lyra nodded, pleased with their progress. Exactly. Our artists are much like composers, but their symphonies are visual and tactile. The morning passed quickly as they immersed themselves in the various displays, each piece teaching them new aspects of Eliction's communicative arts. After a short break, they reconvened at a live demonstration where an artist created a dynamic sculpture in real time, responding to the audience's reactions. "This is interactive art," Lyra explained. "The artist adjusts the form based on the emotional feedback from the audience, creating a unique piece each time." Jack was deeply impressed by the demonstration. "It's a live dialogue, isn't it? The audience and the artist are essentially having a conversation without words." "Yes, and it's a perfect example of how our communication methods can extend beyond the practical into the profound," Lyra added. As the day ended, they thanked Lyra for the enlightening experience. Carl was buzzing with ideas. "I'm starting to see how these concepts could be integrated into our work, Jack. There's a universality in the need to express and connect, whether through words or lights." Jack agreed, his thoughts already racing ahead. Today was inspiring. The blend of art and communication here is unlike anything we've encountered. There's much to take back from this. Lyra smiled, her eyes reflecting a mix of pride and satisfaction. "I'm glad to hear that. Remember, the essence of communication is connection, regardless of the medium." As they left the gallery, the lessons of the day lingered in their minds, the beauty and complexity of Eliction's communicative arts opening new avenues for thought and exploration in their ongoing journey to bridge two vastly different worlds. Chapter 5. Cultural Revelations. Jack and Carl followed Lyra through the winding streets of Eliction's capital to the Cultural Heritage Center, a majestic building with walls that shimmered with historical narratives depicted in dynamic light patterns. Today, they were to dive deeper into the historical context of the communication forms they had been learning. Lyra introduced them to Goran, an elderly historian known for his extensive studies on Eliction's ancient civilizations. Goran's slow, deliberate movements contrasted sharply with the vibrant, quick flashes of the younger Elictions they had encountered so far. "Gentlemen, I understand you are keen to learn about our past," Goran began, his voice deep and resonant even through the translator. "Our history is as complex as our language, layered with many epochs each contributing to the lexicon of our communication." Carl was quick to engage. "We've seen how your modern communication methods are integrated into education and art. How were these methods developed historically?" Goran led them to a series of holographic displays, each representing different historical periods. "Originally, our communication was much like yours, primarily verbal. Over millennia, as our technology and understanding of light physics evolved, so did our capacity for non-verbal expressions." Jack was intrigued. Was there a particular event that catalyzed this shift? "Yes," Goran replied, pausing at a display showing a monumental event. "The Great Convergence, a period of intense solar activity, forced our ancestors to develop new ways to communicate as traditional auditory methods were temporarily disrupted. Moving on, they reached a section dedicated to the renaissance of visual communication." Goran explained, "This era was marked by a flourish in artistic and technological innovations that permanently embedded visual elements into our daily interactions." As they walked, Jack and Carl noted the parallels and contrasts with human history, particularly how civilizations adapt to environmental and technological changes. "Goran, how do you see these historical insights influencing contemporary Eliction society?" Jack asked, looking around at the younger Elictions interacting seamlessly with the installations. Goran smiled, a slow spreading of light across his face. "History is a foundation, not just a memory. It informs our innovations and ensures we remember the lessons learned from our ancestors' challenges and triumphs." The discussion shifted to more practical implications when Lyra interjected, "And now, with visitors like you, we're expanding our communicative boundaries even further. What was once a necessity has become an asset in interstellar diplomacy." Carl, always looking to connect theory with application, chimed in. So, your historical evolution has positioned you uniquely for the broader galactic stage. Exactly, Lyra agreed, leading them to a final display showcasing Elixion's current diplomatic missions. Our unique communication abilities offer a level of precision and emotional depth that is highly valued in delicate negotiations. As the tour concluded, Goran handed them a set of data tablets filled with additional readings. To truly understand a culture, one must immerse oneself in its history. I hope these will aid you in your continued exploration of our world. Jack thanked Goran and Lyra, his mind buzzing with ideas. Today has been incredibly insightful. Understanding where you come from puts everything we've learned into perspective. Carl nodded in agreement as they left the Heritage Center. It's fascinating to see how closely history and communication are intertwined here. It really makes you think about the possibilities for our own future developments. As they walked back to their lodgings, the lessons of the day resonated deeply, strengthening their appreciation for Elixion's rich cultural tapestry and its implications for interstellar understanding and cooperation. Chapter 6. The Bond Strengthens. Back at the conference, the atmosphere was abuzz with the exchange of ideas and the formation of new scholarly connections. Jack and Carl, newly inspired by their deep dive into Elixion's history, prepared to present their preliminary findings on the unique visual communication methods they'd been studying. Lyra joined them in the conference hall, her presence drawing the attention of many attendees. "I'm excited to see how you've integrated what you've learned into your presentation," she said, her tones conveying both support and curiosity. Jack adjusted his notes, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. "We hope to do justice to your culture's complexity. It's not just about the language itself, but how it interweaves with your society's history and daily life." As they took the stage, Carl opened the presentation with a brief introduction on their background and purpose. "We've come here as learners, eager to understand the sophisticated layers of Elixion's non-verbal communication. What we've discovered is not only fascinating but deeply enlightening." Jack then took over, guiding the audience through a series of slides that illustrated the evolution of Elixion's communication forms, highlighting the points they'd learned from Goran. As historians like Goran have shown us, understanding the past is key to understanding the present. The Great Convergence was a turning point, driving innovation in communication that has shaped contemporary Elixion society. The crowd listened intently, many nodding in agreement or murmuring appreciatively at the insights provided. Lyra, watching from the front row, seemed pleased with their handling of the subject. After the presentation, a panel of Elixion linguists and historians joined Jack and Carl on stage for a Q&A session. One of the panelists, a renowned linguist named Dr. Verek, posed a thoughtful question. "You've spoken about the parallels between verbal and non-verbal communication. In your view, how might these insights apply to interspecies communication strategies, especially in diplomatic contexts?" Carl responded, "That's a great question, Dr. Verek. We believe that the precision and emotional depth of non-verbal cues, as utilized in Elixion, could significantly enhance diplomatic efforts by providing a clearer, more nuanced exchange of sentiments and intentions." The discussion deepened, with Jack and Carl explaining some of the specific gestures and sequences they'd practiced, demonstrating how these could be adapted to facilitate clearer communication between different species. As the session concluded, the applause was warm and genuine. Lyra approached them, her expression one of pride. "You've not only learned, but also shared your learning in a way that honors our culture." "Thank you." Jack felt a surge of satisfaction. "We couldn't have done it without your guidance, Lyra, and we still have much to learn." Carl nodded in agreement. "This is just the beginning. Perhaps we could collaborate on a paper, exploring these applications further." Lyra was enthusiastic. "I'd like that very much. It's an opportunity to bridge our worlds, not just for us but for future generations." As they left the stage, many attendees approached to congratulate them, ask questions, or propose further discussions. The success of their presentation had opened many doors, and as they mingled, Jack and Carl realized that their journey into understanding Eliction's communication was branching into new and exciting directions. Their bond with Lyra, strengthened by their collaborative efforts, was becoming a professional partnership and a deep friendship that promised to yield rich insights into not only Eliction's culture, but also the broader universe's tapestry of interstellar communication. Chapter 7. Challenges. After the success of their presentation, Jack and Carl, along with Lyra, found themselves the focus of much attention at the conference. Invitations to collaborate on various projects poured in, and their schedule was filled with meetings and seminars. However, amidst this flurry of activity, Jack faced a personal dilemma that threatened to overshadow his professional achievements. One evening, as the conference wound down for the day, Jack and Carl sat in a quiet corner of the conference center's lounge, a rare moment of calm in their hectic schedule. "Carl, I've received an offer from the University of Earth's Interstellar Relations to lead a new department focused on alien communication technologies," Jack started, his voice tinged with conflict. "It's a prestigious position, one I've worked toward my entire career. But it means leaving Eliction and all we're starting here." Carl looked at Jack, understanding his friend's predicament. "That's a tough call, Jack. This project, our work here with Lyra, it's groundbreaking. But that position, it's what you've always wanted." Jack sighed, rubbing his forehead. "I know. And it's not just about the job. It's about where I feel I can make the most impact. Here, we're just starting to scratch the surface. There's so much more to explore and understand." As they were talking, Lyra approached their table, her expression concerned. "I couldn't help overhearing. Jack, this sounds like a significant decision. What are your thoughts?" Jack shared his concerns, explaining the offer and his hesitation. Lyra listened intently, nodding slowly. "Your skills and passion for understanding different cultures are what make you so valuable here, and will make you valuable there as well. Either choice will lead you to great contributions, I'm sure." Carl chimed in. "Why not take some time to think it over? We don't have to rush the decision. Let's see what more we can achieve while we're still here." The next day, Jack decided to dedicate his time to diving even deeper into the work at Eliction. Together with Lyra, they initiated a series of workshops designed to teach humans and Elictions about each other's communication styles. The workshops were a hit, providing real-world applications for their research and further cementing the bond between their cultures. As the workshops progressed, Jack found himself increasingly torn. The joy of discovery and the satisfaction of teaching were palpable, and the thought of leaving it behind became more daunting. One afternoon, following a particularly successful session, Lyra took Jack aside. "Jack, you've brought so much to our community here. Your enthusiasm and insight have opened doors we didn't even know were there. Whatever you decide, your impact will last." Jack felt a swell of emotions as he looked out over the workshop participants, a mix of humans and Elictions, all deeply engaged in learning from each other. "Lyra, these past weeks have changed how I see my path. There's potential here, not just for study, but for real interstellar understanding." The choice loomed large as the conference drew to a close. On the final night, as Jack, Carl, and Lyra gathered to watch Eliction's twin suns set, Jack made his decision. "Carl, Lyra, I've made up my mind. I'm staying," he announced, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "The university's offer was tempting, but what we're building here, it's unique. It's vital, and I can't walk away from it." Carl clapped him on the back, grinning broadly. "I was hoping you'd say that. We've got work to do, and it wouldn't be the same without you." Lyra's smile was radiant. "Welcome home, Jack." As the suns dipped below the horizon, casting a glorious spectrum of colors across the sky, Jack felt a profound sense of peace with his decision. Here, in the arms of a new world, he had found a new purpose, a new home, and a new horizon to explore. Chapter 8. A Leap into Eternity. On the morning after his decision to stay on Elixion, Jack woke up feeling a sense of contentment he hadn't experienced in a long time. The early light of dawn cast a soft glow through his window, the city below slowly coming to life as its inhabitants started their day. Today marked not just another day, but the beginning of his new life here. Carl knocked on Jack's door, his face wearing a broad smile. "Ready to start our new chapter, partner?" he asked, his enthusiasm infectious. Jack returned the smile. "Absolutely. Let's get to it." They headed to their new office, a space granted to them by the Elixion Cultural Exchange Program. It was here that they would expand their research and continue their workshops, bridging human and Elixion communication methods. As they organized their workspace, Lyra joined them, bringing with her plans for the future. "I've spoken with the Council. They're excited about formalizing our partnership and have proposed a series of exchange programs," she explained, laying out documents filled with potential projects and collaborations. "That sounds fantastic," Carl said, examining the proposals. "These exchanges could really enhance our understanding and integration of both cultures." Jack nodded in agreement. "It's a big step forward. I'm thrilled to see how eager everyone is to learn from each other." The morning passed in a flurry of planning and discussions. They mapped out the next few months, scheduling workshops, seminars, and visits between Earth and Elixion. Each program was designed to foster deeper connections and mutual understanding, creating a solid foundation for their ongoing collaboration. In the afternoon, they hosted their first joint seminar in their new office. The room was filled with an eager audience, both humans and Elixions, all keen to participate in this groundbreaking initiative. Jack stood before the group, his heart full. "Welcome, everyone. Today isn't just about learning each other's languages or sharing techniques. It's about building a community that transcends worlds. It's about creating a shared future." As the seminar progressed, Jack and Carl facilitated discussions, assisted by Lyra, who helped interpret not just the language but also the cultural nuances that enriched the conversation. The energy in the room was palpable, with every participant engaged and contributing. After the seminar, as the participants mingled and exchanged their own stories and ideas, Jack pulled Carl aside. "Did you ever imagine we'd end up here?" he asked, a note of wonder in his voice. Carl laughed. "It's beyond what I'd hoped for. But seeing all this, it feels right, doesn't it?" "It does," Jack agreed. "It's like we've found our place in the universe, not just as visitors or researchers, but as part of this community." As the day drew to a close, Jack, Carl, and Lyra stood together, watching the attendees leave, chatting animatedly among themselves. Lyra turned to Jack, her expression serious yet warm. "Jack, when you first arrived, I sensed you were looking for something more than just knowledge. I think you've found it." Jack looked at both his friends, his new family, and felt a profound connection to everything around him. "I have. This is just the beginning, but it already feels like a lifetime's worth of searching has led me here." In the alien's arms, the human found eternity. Carl quoted the phrase they had often joked about during their initial days on Elixion. Jack chuckled. "Yes, and what an eternity it will be." Together, they returned to their tasks, ready to face whatever challenges and wonders their new life on Elixion would bring. In this vibrant alien world, Jack had not only found a new purpose, but a home where he truly belonged, and a future that was as limitless as the stars themselves.